Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings. Week 5 Waiver Wire Pickup Power Rankings. Ads, drops, injuries. Going to discuss the running back snaps for a lot of these players and even some wide receiver routes, plus a Monday Night Football preview a little bit later on. Normally the show comes out on Sunday evenings. I have a guest on, we recap. It found like that was getting a bit too cluttered and a bit too rushed, so I think that dropping this on Monday mornings, it's still out there on Monday mornings for people to go into, and we have a lot more information on Monday mornings than I do on Sunday evenings while the Sunday Night Football game is going. If you want full details, this is going to be the show for that. And I'll have my Waiver Wire Pickup Power Rankings up on DKNation.com. But if you do want information on Sunday evening, the Mayo Media newsletter, it has player notes on every single game, the running back snaps that we have available at the moment, plus the Monday Night Football preview from Griffin Swanson is in there as well, plus a little bit of a look ahead to golf, which I'll have Monday evening with Ben Raza for the Shriners, if you're interested in golf whatsoever. But that's the way that I think that the format is going to work moving forward. We're going to switch it up on Mondays, make it a shorter show, but a more efficient show, and have better information in it. Plus, I'm far more well-rested when I actually sleep at night on Sundays, especially after a week of being sick. Here's a tip. You got 2 kids and one of them gets sick 2 weeks ago. Eventually, it's going to get you, and it's not going to be great. Stomach flus for everyone. Bad scene for 5 of the 7 nights of last week. And that's why my energy level was down. Now it's back. Hopefully they can remain healthy for a little bit before they get sent home with a runny nose and get us all sick over again. I know if you don't have kids, you don't give a shit, but hey, this is what this is the stage of my life that I'm in right now. I hope you enjoyed the free trial at runthesims.com. Got to use the optimizer, the single game showdown, the prop tools. It was really good this weekend. I actually did really well on DraftKings. The shitter lineup from the DraftKings show scored 171 points. Didn't win any GPPs, but it was pretty good. Definitely cash in every contest that you played in. Even though Dak didn't throw for any yards, he threw for a ton of touchdowns. And DJ Moore, well, he came through, and Dalton Schultz. Listen, he was the shitter tight end of the week, and he came through. A solid, I think it was 16 points on the dot, even though we tried to fumble 3 times. None of them actually counted, so that was great news. So if you did enjoy runthesims.com, go to runthesims.com/Mayo. That will give you a discount on any level of membership that is out there right now, and good luck in the draws for the DraftKings tickets. I do want to recommend that everyone subscribe to that newsletter. I've put the link down in the description. In there right now, you can find the full list of injuries, the full running back snap shares, all of the player notes. That is all available to you right now. It's completely free. We send out 3 a week, a lot with player notes for the games, before Thursday Night Football, before Sunday, injury reports, everything like that in full cheat sheet fashion. So if you don't care about listening to me the entire time, just hit up the sheet and you'll be good to go. Promise. All right, smash the like button to the video, sub to Mayo Media Network, and in the comment section, please give me your single favorite pickup long-term for the 2021 fantasy football season. There's some decent guys here. I don't know how long, especially at some of the positions, that these guys are going to last. And we'll start with running back. I did want to mention that I think one of the add-ons I'm going to do at the end of the show to make it a bit more fun for the viewers is life advice, questions that you may have. I don't really care about fantasy football questions. I answer those on Twitter. I'm also doing a giveaway on Twitter this Wednesday at the PME. I'll have 50 Millionaire Maker tickets on DraftKings, so you might want to follow over there so you have a chance to win one of those. Giving away 50 a week. It's always a lot of fun. I'm glad I can give back and nudge DraftKings into giving me those tickets, so you might as well take advantage while I got them. But yeah, send any questions that you may have, industry questions, life questions, and see how hilariously bad that I can answer them. If I have some expertise on it, and I have a little bit of expertise on some things, not a ton on a lot of things, but if you have a question for me, the Pat Mayo Experience at gmail.com, just send it in and I'll pick one a week and we'll go through it. Hey, if we get a whole bunch of them, if there's 2 good ones, I'll do those at the end of the shows moving forward. I'm actually super excited to be back on doing the solo pod on Monday mornings. Like I said, I feel reinvigorated. Just being sick sucks so much, and that one day after you don't have any more symptoms, your stomach doesn't hurt, you're breathing well again, you get all fired up. So let's go. Running back, Waiver Wire Pickups for the week. Again, these are up on DKNation.com right now. Number 1, Latavius Murray. Damian Williams, number 2. Samaje Perine, number 3. A.J. Dillon, 4. Kenneth Gainwell, 5. J.D. McKissick, Peyton Barber, Jeremy McNichols, Dwayne Washington, and Brandon Bolden. Those are the top 10 running back pickups. These are running backs who are available in less than 60% of ESPN.com leagues. Obviously, I don't know who's available in your league and who is not. There's some guys on this list who are better, who are probably available. Or maybe none of these guys are available. I can't do it for your own specific league, so please, just bear with me on this one. I have to go by some sort of standard. I know I say this every week, but I get the same questions every week. This guy is not available in my league. I'm sorry, man. I don't know what to tell you, all right? Latavius Murray, Tyson Williams was a healthy scratch. So I go from betting his over prop against the Lions. He essentially gets benched, and now he's a healthy scratch. Good times. I guess my initial lean of Latavius Murray's backfield in Baltimore will eventually be his. It's finally coming to fruition. I guess don't give yourself a big X after 1 week of it not working out. He was dropped in a bunch of spots, and I know Le'Veon Bell ended up with 9 carries in the game. That's because they were just ahead by so much. Once Teddy Bridgewater left that game, it was like, all right, we can just run the ball for 2 yards a carry. They're not going to be scoring with Drew Lock, so let's not worry about it. Keep our team healthy in this scenario. And John Harbaugh even went to the full extreme of continuing to rush the ball at the end of the game so they can continue their streak of over 100-yard rushing games. Good on him. I know people are all pissed off about it. You know what? Be better. How about that, Denver defense? Be better, and then that won't happen to you. You won't get to be embarrassed in that situation. So, I like Murray. I think long-term he's the play. Will he be ranked ahead of Damian Williams or Samaje Perine next week if David Montgomery can't go or Joe Mixon can't go? Absolutely not. But when those guys come back, those other two are kind of useless. So Murray seems like he is a more sustained play moving forward. Now, if you're just looking for a 1 or 2 week hitter, Williams and Perine are most definitely the spots to go into. I suppose I should go over the injuries at running back. Josh Jacobs, we don't know about Monday Night Football yet. That will come out later in the day. I wouldn't expect him to play, but crazier things have happened. Joe Mixon, that ankle injury, no idea. We have not got a status update on him. He could be back for week 5. He could be out for 4 weeks. It depends on the extent of this ankle sprain. David Montgomery, he went down with what looked like a pretty serious knee injury. Ian Rappaport reported after the game that it's not going to be season ending, but he could miss some significant time. And then let's say he missed 6 weeks. I'd probably elevate Damian Williams above Latavius Murray, but right now, he could miss 2 weeks, and then what are we really doing here? So just keep a monitor on what's going on with David Montgomery, and I'll adjust the waiver wire rankings after the Monday night game, and I'll discuss it with Seeley on Tuesday's show to see, if Damian Williams all of a sudden boosts up the list. Because with Justin Fields playing quarterback, running lane should be there for a lot of people. And if that's going to be Damian Williams, then good on him. Let's go with Damian Williams. And his new number just really screws me up. Like, that guy looks so small with the single-digit number. And then it's like, oh, no, that's actually Damian Williams. I'm still getting my mind wrapped around, especially when, backups come in. It took me forever to figure out that Chase Edmonds and James Conner were two different guys. We're in the 2, we're in the 6. James Conner looks so slender wearing number 6 that he actually now looks like Chase Edmonds. In that, bulky Steelers uniform, wearing 30, he looked sort of like a mini tank. And now he looks svelte. He looks like a pass-catching back. Well, that's not what he does. He just steals goal line carries from everyone on Arizona and pisses everyone off. Not great news. Tony Jones got carted off with an ankle injury for the Saints. That's why Dwayne Washington is on that list right now, because it looks like he will become the primary backup to Alvin Kamara. I don't know if he would end up taking over the full role from Alvin Kamara. Ty Montgomery is still on this team, and we know that he can work as a hybrid running back wide receiver. And the problem right now is, Kamara's running all these routes, but he's not getting catches because this offense is god-awful. So it's tough. He's seeing this elevated volume. His role is very secure, very safe, but the fantasy production is just, their offense is so predictable at the moment, is that you can just load up and take out Alvin Kamara and hope that Jameis doesn't beat you. That's all the Giants did, and it worked. So that might be a game plan against the Saints going forward, but so far they have won outright and covered as an underdog in 2 of their 4 games when they were both underdogs. As favorites in 2 games, they have outright lost so far this season. So they might be that team. When they're an underdog, take them. When they're a favorite, go against them. Seems to be the play with the Saints. The defense didn't look as good as it normally does either. Eli Mitchell didn't play. Gio Bernard didn't play. Christian McCaffrey, obviously, he didn't play either. Eli Mitchell, I would guess, returns next week. Sermon looked good for the Niners against the Seahawks. I mean, it's a pretty gravy matchup. The issue is now, especially that Trey Lance is starting at quarterback with Jimmy Garoppolo out for at least 2 to 6 weeks, maybe more with this calf injury. We'll see if it's an Achilles problem after they go for their MRI on Monday, but he doesn't really check down to the running backs at all. Kyle Juszczyk does seem to be the primary pass catcher out of this backfield, so that really stunts what your fantasy upside is going to be. Like, look at Sermon. If Sermon scores a touchdown, it's a pretty good week. But now he's in the situation where if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's probably going to score under 10 fantasy points. That's just the reality of the situation. And that might go with Elijah Mitchell as well. We don't even know how that backfield is going to be divvied up moving forward at the same time. So it's a tough scene. You want the running back snap shares, like I said, hit the description. It's in the Mayo Media newsletter, just the chart for you. I posted on Facebook. I posted on Twitter. It's all up there right now. But there's a few more guys that I wanted to talk about. Miles Sanders being chief among them. So the Eagles don't run the ball ever. Maybe it's because they've been trailing the last 2 weeks, but it did seem like every time Miles Sanders touches the ball, it seems like he has a full head of steam, and he's very difficult to stop. But now Kenneth Gainwell is getting far more involved in this offense. Looking at the snap shares right now for the Philadelphia Eagles. Where are we at, Philadelphia Eagles? I had this highlighted, and now I can't find it. Of course, that's always how it's going to go with me, isn't it? There we are. Let's find Eagles. Now I have to do a Control F search on this and feel like a moron in the situation. Here we go. Miles Sanders played 47 snaps. Kenneth Gainwell only 29 snaps. Routes run, Miles Sanders way ahead in that, but only ended up with 3 catches. Gainwell runs 20 routes and catches 6 balls. So it does seem like the preference is to use Kenneth Gainwell. Plus, he does seem to have a far larger role in this offense once they get inside the 20. It's not that you need to be starting Kenneth Gainwell. He's good. You should be like rostered on your team if you're in a 14 team or more. Most definitely have Kenneth Gainwell on your team. But you always have to worry about Hurts stealing touchdowns and a lot of the rushing attempts. And Gainwell doesn't seem like he's really going to penetrate that all that often. When it comes down to it, like in the game, he had 3 carries. But if he's going to get valuable touches, a lot like James Conner inside the 10-yard line, then there is something to it. It just really hurts Miles Sanders, where we came into the season thinking, hey, you know what, we're worried about this situation, but we do see a path to upside. If he was getting 15 touches a game, this would be a different situation. Instead, he ended up with 10 in the game. Like, even against a bad Chiefs defense, that's just not going to cut it from a stability standpoint in your fantasy lineup. Like, that's going to put him firmly as a low-end running back too, probably a flex play. Honestly, he's probably just a guy you don't want to play until we do see a modicum of stability out of this team. So that is a difficult situation to be in right now. Chuba Hubbard, I think is going to be pretty good going forward. I actually was quite impressed with how he looked. Now, with the Panthers trailing most of this game, or at least in the second half of this game, we saw a lot of hot Rodney Smith, who worked as the primary pass catcher. He ran 19 routes to Chuba Hubbard's 10. Royce Freeman only played 12 snaps. I wasn't too concerned about him. Ended up with 3 carries, but 13 carries for Chuba Hubbard in a situation with the Panthers having a pretty decent upcoming schedule. And he'll backdoor his way into a few receptions. Had a few in the Thursday night game, but it does seem like he's not going to take the Christian McCaffrey role like some of us hoped and maybe expected that he would do. He's still a start in fantasy formats, unless Sam Darnold steals every rushing touchdown ever. But Rodney Smith in deeper PPR formats, he's essentially going to act like a J.D. McKissick, where he's never a guy that you're going to feel comfortable starting or want to start or probably should start, but he's going to have sort of these spike games that come out of nowhere. And it's like, oh, great. I wish those balls would have gone to Chuba Hubbard, but alas, they didn't. I did want to say that we've kind of picked up on most of the top end handcuffs so far. I mentioned Dwayne Washington for Kamara. Jeremy McNichols seems like if anything were ever to happen to Derrick Henry, McNichols is going to be really good. He should be rostered. Like, if you have space on your bench and you're just speculating whether you have Henry or not, you could backdoor your way into a top 15 running back. And it's funny because, I mean, obviously he's not as good as Derrick Henry and won't produce like Derrick Henry does, because Derrick Henry's going to touch the ball upwards of 30 plus times in a game, even when they're losing, which is great news for Derrick Henry owners. But McNichols is actually involved in the receiving game. They will throw to him with a plan. Now, they've been trying to get Derrick Henry more involved in the receiving game. Let's go to the Les Titans for a second here and check out the routes run. It was 18 routes run for Derrick Henry. Jeremy McNichols had 30 and only played 36 snaps. Like, when he's on the field, he is running routes. If you started to mix in, like, if something happened to Derrick Henry, now you're talking about like 15, 16 carries a game, probably 5 to 7 targets based on this offense, even when Julio and A.J. Brown return, you're talking about like a Kareem Hunt type of player, but one that will probably get all of the goal line work because there's no one to take away from him at all. Like, he'd probably be a top 12 running back if anything was to happen to Derrick Henry. So that's the sort of speculation that you want, even in shallower leagues. Probably not a 10-team league because, whatever. But in 12-team leagues and more, Jeremy McNichols, put him on your bench and reap the rewards should anything happen. If not, it's not like you're ever going to play him. He's going to hurt you. Well, he could have played him this week with his 8 catches, which was kind of ridiculous. Brennan Bolden. So this one was really interesting because he ended up with I thought that J.J. Taylor would assume the James White pass catching role, but that actually went to Brandon Bolden for the second consecutive week. They told us essentially what they were going to do. I just chose not to believe them like an idiot. Stevenson was a healthy scratch. Once again, it seems like they want no part of him. Sort of the trend with rookie running backs right now over the past few years in New England. But it's Damian Harris who really stuck out to me in this game, and a really nice buy low candidate at the moment because he actually ran more routes than Brandon Bolden. 17-11 in this game. He just didn't end up with the catches. But the fact that he is out there running routes, it's just like Hansel when it comes to talking about Sting. I don't really listen to his music. The fact that he's out there making it is a big inspiration. But running those routes for Damian Harris, big inspiration to me. It's not like he's going to be Christian McCaffrey, but the fact that he has the potential, especially with short throwing Mac Jones out there dumping the ball off. If eventually they trust Damian Harris enough to actually start throwing him the ball and having him in pass protection, he's going to get most of the ground game against non-Tampa Bay teams who you can't run on. And then all of a sudden, if you start adding in like 3-4 catches a week, Damian Harris moves up the board a lot. And we've really seen a lot of these mid-tier running backs just do absolutely nothing. So when you have someone with that sort of stability in terms of his rushing share and his goal line share, if you can just add a pinch. Look how much better Derrick Henry was the past few weeks when he was catching 3 balls a game. You took an awesome running back and made him even better in that circumstance. So you could have Damian Harris as sort of like the homeless man's Derrick Henry if things start to break his way and his role in the receiving game does improve just a little bit. Mike Davis and Cordero Patterson. I can't for the life of me figure out why. I mean, Mike Davis scored the touchdown. That was great. And if it wasn't for Derrick Henry, Cordero Patterson would be the number 1 fantasy running back at the moment, which is just bonkers to think about. But just think about the snap share for a second. 51 snaps for Mike Davis, 23 for Cordero Patterson. Well, it's like, Cordero Patterson, he's the one out there running routes. I saw him catch these touchdowns. And he's a legit receiver, don't get me wrong. But it's very specialized. When if teams just saw Cordero's on the field, let's double cover him because that's the play, because that is the play every time that he's on the field. This efficiency is impossible to sustain. I'm not saying that Cordero Patterson, I was dead wrong on Cordero Patterson. He's going to be a valuable fantasy asset, but there's going to be weeks where he leaves you holding the bag because he doesn't play enough. So in routes run, he's the great receiver. Mike Davis ran 31 routes to Cordero Patterson's 12 routes. It didn't manifest in anything. Cordero ends up with 3 touchdowns and 5 catches. Mike Davis ends up with 2 catches and 13 carries and does absolutely nothing on the ground. So when Cordero Patterson's in the game, they are using him. That's great news. But with Mike Davis, his numbers suggest that he should be a lot better with the opportunities that he should have provided for him. I don't know what's going on with him. And you're watching these games, and Atlanta will look like the Atlanta we have in our minds for 2-minute stretches, and then Ridley's dropping balls, and Matt Ryan's trying to throw balls off of his ass after pump faking on 4th down for no reason. It's like, what are you doing? What is going on with this offense? At some point in the season, it feels like everything's going to click. Maybe it's this week against the Jets in London. It's a very soft secondary, a tougher defense to run on. Probably not a great situation for Mike Davis, and probably a good one for Cordero Patterson, but they finally figured out a way. It's funny, with all the talent on this team, that it took 10 years essentially for Cordero Patterson to be used in the proper way. And this is it. Sort of queen on the chessboardy, where you can play him in the backfield, play him outside, run him out of the slot, run him in motion, just create horrible mismatches because he's such a giant body that you can get him matched up on a small safety. You can get him matched up on one of these smaller corners. And like I said, it's a huge mismatch, especially when he has a bunch of momentum coming forward, running out of the backfield or running in motion. So I like Cordero Patterson moving forward. It's going to be tough to rely on him as a top-end performer, but he's going to be someone you're going to start every single week now, at least until he goes busto, which, again, could come this week. But Mike Davis, I'm concerned about, but not to the extent. He's not going to be the guy that I was hoping he would be as running back 15 coming into the season, but he's like more like running back 23 for the rest of the year. He's stable. He's in that like slightly elevated Frank Gore on your fantasy team role. You're never excited to start him, but if you need someone, he's going to touch the ball, which means he's going to score touchdowns. He's going to have a few good games, but the plotting, him being mediocre, that's just sort of par for the course at this time. Watch out for Chris Carson as well. Carson didn't play. I mean, he played more snaps than Collins did, but they kept, Russell Wilson was running a little bit more around the goal line, only ended up with 2 carries, but Chris Carson only played 46% of the snaps. And that's a real issue because he's someone who should be up around the 70% the entire time. Now, Alex Collins only played 13%. And this is something I discussed with Seeley on the ranking show, that it seemed like Chris Carson hurt himself last week. And I don't know if he was hurt or not, but it seemed like he was limited in some sort of capacity. So I would monitor his health report moving forward. He could actually be a really nice buy low coming off a bad game. And the Niners defense is tough, especially against the run. And they were hassling Russell Wilson, at least for the first quarter and a half of that game. Wilson couldn't do anything. And then they finally figured out what was going on. Then Jimmy goes down, Trey Lance comes in. They can be a bit more conservative in their play calling. And it really did work out for them. But I'd watch out with Chris Carson because he might be banged up and they're not telling that he's playing through the pain, a lot like Dalvin Cook did this week, although he played more snaps and Alexander Mattison didn't out-touch Alexander Mattison. That's going to be Dalvin Cook's backfield going into next week. Don't worry about that. With Carson, this could linger for a little bit longer, so just be fully cognizant of that going in. Remember to smash the like to the video, by the way, and subscribe to Mayo Media Network as we talk about wide receiver injuries. DJ Chark, he's probably done for the season. Will Fuller hurt his hand, and he came into the week with a chest injury. Albert Wilson took over his snaps. Wouldn't really be concerned too much about Albert Wilson, but it's great news for, is anything good news in this Dolphins offense right now? Not really. But Jalen Waddle, after he caught 3 passes in like the first 5 minutes of the game, then wasn't used again. That seems strange. So Jalen Waddle would still be the guy I would want to play, although Devontae Parker balled out a little bit. Made one amazing catch that didn't count. He makes some like circus catches throughout the course of the game. He's very good. Just they don't have the proper quarterbacks to utilize his skill set properly. When he finally finds himself on a new team or with someone who can really sling it, Devontae Parker is going to be awesome. We saw that with Fitz. Just go back and just chuck it to Devontae. He'll go up and get it for you. No problem. Now, can he stay healthy? Not really, but when he is healthy, he's pretty good. Let's see. Diami Brown left with a knee injury. Cam Sims left with a hamstring injury for the Washington football team. Curtis Samuel was not as healthy as I expected. He was 4th in the team in routes run, ended up with 4 targets, didn't have a great game. But we saw a lot more of Adam Humphries in that spot. Logan Thomas goes out for Washington as well. Expect to see more Curtis Samuel moving forward, and that will reflect in the waiver wire pickup rankings. Deontay Spencer for the Broncos hurt his chest as well. Then we got Hinton back in the game, not playing quarterback, playing receiver. But if Teddy's not going to play, it's real tough going for a lot of these guys. A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Elijah Moore, Russell Gage, Chase Claypool, Marcus Valdez-Scantling, Miles Boykin, Rashad Bateman, Scotty Miller, and Danny Amendola all did not play this week. And when we go to the waiver wire pickup power rankings for wide receiver for the week, I have Emmanuel Sanders at number 1. Great matchup with the Chiefs coming up as well. But he just continues to produce on the field. His team's locked down on Stefon Diggs. That's eventually going to change. But the Bills right now seem very content with beating the crap out of bad opponents. And if they want to double cover Diggs, let's try to keep him healthy for the moment. I would expect Diggs to have a big week against the Chiefs because they have no answer. They can triple team him. And 3 Chiefs defenders do not equal 1 Stefon Diggs in what you would expect to be a shootout. So Sanders, Curtis Samuel, who again, I expect to be much healthier moving forward. And now that entire offense is a triage unit. So expect him to actually take away some of the role from Adam Humphries in the slot, and probably from J.D. McKissick, too, once he's back at 100% full speed. Jamison Crowder, Rashad Bateman at number 4. Tim Patrick got downgraded because of the Drew Lock situation right now. Darnell Mooney Tunes, well, we talked him up on the Sunday morning and Saturday show, and all of a sudden, boom, those air yards were realized as soon as they let Justin Fields throw the ball downfield. Wouldn't expect it every week, but at least we know that he sustains that upside once again, just like Christian Kirk. It's either going to be a big Kirk game or a nothing Kirk game. We got a nothing Kirk game. He's he's the all or nothing type of guy that if you need a big game out of someone off your bench, plug him in, cross your fingers, pray, hope for the best that he scores 2 touchdowns because he has that type of upside in him. Just the downside is so bad. Rondell Moore, KJ Osborne, Zach Pascal, who turns out when you're not seeing end zone targets, you don't do anything. Michael Pittman is averaging over 10 targets a game over the past 3, though. That is the type of consistency we want to see, even though Carson Wentz reeks. He's trying to get the ball to Michael Pittman. Terrace Marshall at number 11. Yeah, you don't need any of those guys. Some situations to monitor. I mentioned Darnell Mooney. What does that do with Allen Robinson, who I believe has 0 top 40 performances at wide receiver, and he's seeing his route share drop, his target share drop. It's a bad spot for Allen Robinson, who I loved coming into the year. I thought it would be great, and maybe eventually he'll establish a rapport with Justin Fields, but with how this offense is working, it's not even Fields at the moment. Like, you just kind of scan through what's going on. The Jags ran 55 plays on Thursday night. That's not great news. The Patriots ran 54 plays on Sunday evening. Like, that's not the pace that we want to see sustained. The Seahawks only ran 54. So where are we looking at here for our boys, the Chicago Bears? Where are they? Because they were way down. Did they even end up cracking anything here? Yeah, 57 plays for the Chicago Bears. Like, especially when you're running so much between Fields and the running backs, it just doesn't leave a lot of opportunity. So even if you are Mooney or Allen Robinson, it's like, oh, Allen Robinson, 24% target share. Well, that's great and everything, but if you're never throwing the ball, it doesn't really mean anything. It's not resulting in a Michael Pittman-esque 11 targets. It's resulting in 4 targets. And you would have to be so hyper efficient with that Allen Robinson's got to stay down in the rankings until they figure this out. Straight up, like, he's benchable. You can start random other dude, start Emmanuel Sanders over him. Like, I know that sucks, but you have to at least live in the reality. And sometimes the best way to get out of the hole isn't to dig up and just keep doing the same thing. You got to switch it up a little bit here. And hey, if Allen Robinson goes off on your bench and he's back to 11 targets, you know what? Good news for your team moving forward. But you can't have this anchor on your roster. I mean, you can have him on your roster. You can't have him in your starting lineup right now because it's just been absolutely brutal. For things like DraftKings purposes or in a prop total, once you see that devalued, yeah, you can start going over and taking some low ownership shots because you can really reap the single week reward of doing that. But for season long purposes, it's not a situation that you want to be in at running back. Or at wide receiver, with Allen Robinson. Josh Gordon could be active next week for the Bills. And I thought this was really interesting. If we go through the snap share of the Chiefs, it was a bizarre situation because Demarcus Robinson actually ran the second, that's not how you spell Chiefs. There we go. Actually ran the second most routes out of anyone on the Chiefs and ended up with 0 targets in the game, which is kind of hard to believe, especially just everything went to Tyreek Hill. Even Travis Kelce in that matchup ended up with 6 targets. So 12 for Tyreek Hill, 6 for Travis Kelce. They didn't need anyone else. 3 for Hard Man and the heir to the chip fortune. Byron Pringle ends up with 2. But like I said, Demarcus Robinson ran more routes than Mecole Hardman in that game, 24 to 23 to 12 for Byron Pringle. So, I mean, they didn't run that many. I mean, let's see, Travis Kelce played 59 snaps. The Chiefs are usually a higher pace team, but Philly had the ball for a lot of that game because the Chiefs scored so quickly a lot of the time that it was just an odd situation. Against the Bills, I think it's going to be a bit of a different story, although the Bills defense has been really good. It's hard to judge how good the Bills defense is because they really haven't played any good offenses yet. Like, they shut down Pittsburgh's offense completely and then lost on a special teams muff where they blocked a punt. That almost happened to the Steelers again. And it's funny because that's when we spelled it out on the spread show. Like, that's how the Steelers would have to cover. And it happened in the Packers game. They had the block field goal touchdown, but it just got reversed. Like, that happens. That entire game is completely different, but the penalty negated it. That's how they beat the Bills in week 1, but the Bills defense completely stymied the Pittsburgh offense. Then they played Miami, Washington, and Houston. Yeah, they beat the crap out of them and didn't allow any yards or basically any points. Shut out 2 of those teams. What does that really tell you? Those offenses are absolute garbage. Against the Chiefs, maybe the Bills defense is legit and for real. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle. So it's going to be a tough situation. I wouldn't stay away from any Chiefs players. In daily fit, listen, in your season-long leagues, obviously you're starting your Chiefs. But in the Josh Gordon situation, if he gets put into this game, he couldn't have found a better spot to go to, really. And not necessarily in terms of trying to be an efficient player. Like, clearly, they don't like Demarcus Robinson. They don't like Mecole Hardman, or they would just use these guys more. If Josh Gordon can be a stabilizing force, almost in the Sammy Watkins role, it's going to be boom or bust, and it's not going to be consistent, but he could be really good. And not like wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, but a guy that you play at wide receiver 3 for upside every single week. Like, hell, if you have Allen Robinson, you might as well go pick up Josh Gordon, play him if he ends up starting this week, because Lord knows you don't want that Allen Robinson situation. In the Giants receiving core, we saw some hunky Tony. We saw some John Ross on the go. The issue was going to be when Slayton and Shepard end up returning. What happens to these guys? Probably they go to the bench, and then Slayton and Shepard end up starting. Tony is the one who has the best ability to, like, John Ross is going to play the Slayton role. That's very clear. And Tony kind of stepped in along with Colin Johnson last week to that Sterling Shepard role. When Shepard is back and Tony are back, it seems like they're probably going to divvy up. I don't know about the snap shares, because Evan Ingram also patrols the slot a lot and runs those seam routes and shorter routes in the Giants offense. So you probably, I mean, I don't want to play Tony. I just don't want to involve myself in this defense or in this offense too much. But Shepard would be the one I would want, although Slayton might actually be the superior play playing opposite of Galladay, because you figure that he's going to be out there the majority of the time, while those other three who man the middle of the field, the hash marks, might divvy up a lot of snaps, might divvy up a lot of targets, unless there really is a lean from Daniel Jones just to feed the ball to Sterling Shepard, like we've seen a lot of the time. So just be cognizant of that before you go pick someone up, because, oh my God, what a game for John Ross or Kadarius Toney. Oh my God, they finally used him. First round pick. Maybe you're right. I wouldn't buy too much into it. Tight ends for the week. Well, I think Jake and I will do a complete readjustment at the tight end position this week, because we have a lot of injuries and guys that are just good now. Like Dawson Knox is good. I don't know if this keeps up every single week, but he has been amazing. He's number 1 in the pickup rankings. Dalton Schultz is number 2, because other teams don't cover Dalton Schultz. It's really bizarre. I know that there's a lot of weapons on the Cowboys, but eventually it's like, man, this guy is standing wide open 2 feet from the end zone every single week. Probably should cover him. I thought he'd go busto this week after everyone kind of glommed on. And like I said, he tried to fumble 3 times in the game. None of them actually stuck, but like it was just really weird stuff. So Dawson Knox, Dalton Schultz, Max Williams, Tyler Conklin, Pat Firemouth, and CJ Secret of the Uzma. I wouldn't expect his role to really be there once T. Higgins returns from action, which is probably going to be this week. So probably have to put Uzma back to the bench. If you streamed him, congratulations to you. You got one of the better tight end games of the year from a streaming spot. Now you can go back. If Mike Gesicki is available too, with Jacoby Brissett, he's actually been quite good. If anyone runs a route within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, Jacoby Brissett has eyes for those guys, because that is those are the completions that he likes to make. Jacoby came through for me too. That was a Run the Sims specials. We gave out over 18.5 completions as one of the strongest plays of the week, and he came through with 20 completions. He was on pace to like shatter that after, like I said, like 3 minutes. Then they did nothing for about 30 minutes of the game. Then he ended up storming back, being down. So thank you, Jacoby Brissett, for coming through for us in that situation. Injuries, Logan Thomas will probably be out a week to 4 weeks with a hamstring injury. Ricky Seals-Jones, I mean, it's that time of the year again. So Ricky Seals-Jones waiver wire discussion. You can pick up Ricky Seals-Jones. I'll probably throw him in. You know what? I'll throw him in over Firemouth just as a streamer. Only because there are so many opportunities. Like I said, there's 3 guys that went down in that offense. We still have Curtis Samuel getting back to full strength, that Ricky Seals-Jones could just see a bunch of targets moving forward, at least in the short term. While Logan Thomas is out, it's just going to be all McLaurin all the time. But Ricky Seals-Jones is someone who's 100% available. You can go pick up. Rob Gronkowski and Gerald Everett both missed the game. We tried to have a Will Disley week. It never materialized. 2 catches. Thanks, Walt Disley, for doing nothing. Back to the waiver wire for you, pal. And for Gronk being out, Howard actually outsnapped Cameron Brate, 51-49. But the routes run were more than double in favor of Cameron Brate. So Cameron Brate is the tight end that you would want to try to stream. Not going to be good by any means in terms of a consistent type of player, but that's where you want to go if you're going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense at the moment. All right, we got some streamers at quarterback. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo has been, I mean, we don't know the extent of his injury. He has a calf injury. I've dealt with a calf injury now. I mean, me and Jimmy Garoppolo, as you can see by our jawlines, essentially the same person. Me, also a professional athlete. I know how this works. But I did have a calf strain. I actually had a mini tear in my calf about It was last October. It was almost a year ago now, and I'm still rehabbing it to this day. Obviously, he has a bit more muscle than old Pat Mayo, bit of a better athlete than old Pat Mayo, but it's a really tricky one. You see calf injuries, they don't seem like much because they're really hard to diagnose. It depends on where it is. And I've become a calf expert over the years because you have your big muscle in your calf, but you also have the soleus, which is the inside part of your calf. And that's actually where I had my mini tear. And just rehabbing that is so tough because there aren't very many strengthening exercises you can do to your soleus. And the problem is once you have a calf injury, and this is what happened to me, it deteriorates and makes your Achilles tendon really weak. And that's why you see a sustained period of time of people being out with calf injuries. It's not necessarily that the calf is hurting them anymore. It's just if they go up to full speed, that all of the onus, if the calf is de-strengthened, you need to rehabilitate that and get it back up to full strength, or the onus in your leg actually gets put on the Achilles tendon, then all of a sudden especially when you're a pro athlete and you're running at full speed and taking giant hits and having to pivot off that, especially when it is your throwing foot where you have to plant, just putting that much pressure on your Achilles could be real bad news if you enjoy walking. So I would expect him to be out the 6 weeks, maybe more. We'll see when the MRI comes back if there is an Achilles problem there, because those all interconnect with one another. So tough news, man. Jimmy's a good quarterback. I'm happy to see Trey Lance in because that's just exciting for the most part, especially for fantasy purposes, but even my enjoyment of viewing purposes. Like there's an electricity when he's in. He's sort of like must-watch TV when they're on. Even when they were down in that game, it's like, oh man, what's Trey Lance going to do now? He's so raw, but you can just see the upside and that arm strength. Once he can harness that arm strength a little bit, because he's a real big fan. A good thing Debo has like solid hands, because it's almost like the old Favre. He's standing like 3 feet away from someone and throwing it as hard as he can to them. That's going to result in some picks because it's going to go through guys' hands because they're not expecting the ball to be whipped at them, 85 miles per hour when, just a simple thump pass would do to hit the guy in stride so he can continue running his route, but it's just like whoo, the entire time with Trey Lance. Eventually, he'll learn just to tap the X button, and then you can put some lob on the ball or just take a little bit of speed off of it. So Trey Lance going to be the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers moving forward. And as I mentioned, Teddy Bridgewater sustained a concussion against Baltimore. Once that happened, I knew my overplay in that game was completely out the window, so I just ripped up the ticket. I mean, I didn't have a ticket. It was a digital ticket. I just stopped looking at it at that point and wrote it down and chalked it up to a loss in my bankroll tracker and went on my way with the situation. Fortunately, the gold picks on the Friday show all came through. Me, Rob, and Cam swept the board for the third time in 4 weeks. That is always a positive sign. So I saw people parlaying together the 3 gold picks. I felt really good about the Bills, even at minus 17, and they doubled that because the Bills are good and the Texans are awful. It just took us a few weeks to... you see that number and it's so hard to go through. And just with the Bills, they're becoming the new Baltimore. They're going to kick the shit out of bad teams over and over and over again. So the streamers for the week, hopefully Teddy can be back. That would be great news for every Broncos player. Drew Lock is not in these in terms of streaming. Number 1, I got Kirk Cousins against the Lions. Sam Darnold at home against the Eagles. Trevor Lawrence. I mean, if Zach Wilson can put up a game, let's see if Trevi can do it against the Titans. Obviously, no DJ Chark, but with Marv, with James Robinson now receiving out of the backfield, Tarzan Dan Arnold working his way in post-trade, and obviously our guy, Laviska Shenault, he's going to have some weapons here, and he's running a little bit more too, which is nice to see. So he's number 3. Daniel Jones against Dallas. Number 4, Trey Lance at Arizona. You can talk yourself into higher in this one. I'm just going to be pensive week 1 with him as a streamer. Zach Wilson against Atlanta. Mac Jones against Houston. All the rookies have really nice matchups. Arizona isn't a great matchup, but you can throw on them. Like, you can get fantasy points against them because they're going to score 40 points. So it's a lot of catch-up time. Justin Fields at Las Vegas as well. That's a typo. That says AR, not AT. There we go. Fields will get it figured out eventually. He's just not there yet in terms of overall fantasy upside. Streaming D's. For the week, we got New England at Houston. New England was dropped, surprisingly, en masse. I didn't expect them to have them in streamers, but they fell to 57% ownership, so there's a chance that they're available in your league. And there's also a chance that Pittsburgh is available in your league as well, because no one wanted to play them against the Packers. I think some people did, but just scan the waiver wire to see if they're out there. Denver as well, Baltimore as well, because that wasn't a super popular streaming play last week. But New England at Houston, Dallas at home against the Giants. This Dallas pass rush is good. I don't know where it came from. Micah Parsons apparently is just awesome. Opens up some lanes for Randy Gregory, and all of a sudden, pass rush is back. They were harassing poor safe space Sam Darnold. They entered his safe space. Darnold did a pretty good job, but they had a lot of QB pressures in that game. And against Danny Fums, he's going to give you some fantasy points. So Dallas, number 2. Tennessee at Jacksonville. Arizona at home against San Francisco. Take advantage of a rookie starting his first game. Usually a pretty good scenario, especially when they're going to have to pass a ton if Arizona can get up in that spot. And then Baltimore at home against Indy. If you can play front runner against the Colts and force Carson Wentz into making some horrible passes, then that could be a good boost for any sort of defense. Monday Night Football. Let's get to it. Griffin Swanson has the full preview with the DraftKings Showdown breakdown up on Mayo Media Network right now. Highly suggest that you go check that out. I want to talk a bit more. We broke down the game on the spread show. I was the only one who took Vegas at plus 3.5. That is the line at DraftKings Sportsbook right now. But the single highest rated Sims plays of the week, I wish I had put this into my best bet show because Robbie Anderson missed his over prop by a half yard. 46.5 is the over under. He gets caught in the shithole at 46 yards. And the worst part is, because I played him on DraftKings, I played him on Prize Picks, I bet his over prop. I really love Robbie Anderson this week. And it was there for him. He got stuck. I thought that Diggs would cover DJ Moore most of the game. That didn't turn out to be the case. Diggs was on Robbie Anderson. It's funny that opposing defenses treat Robbie Anderson like he's the number one and kind of let DJ Moore eat up everything he wants underneath. And I guess it kind of worked in this situation where they let DJ Moore do his thing, and Dallas was able to win and capitalize on shutting down Robbie Anderson. But Robbie Anderson ran this crisp double route where he was gone in the fourth quarter, and Darnold missed him by about 2 feet on the overthrow. But it was such a nice move, and it was the over. It was everything all in one go, like we wanted. Because Dallas's back end of their defense still isn't very good. They'll give up big plays. It's just Darnold could not capitalize on the few opportunities that he had. It was like a dagger into the heart, being like, oh, if he catches that pass or he just has one more yard, I have a huge winning week in terms of betting. He doesn't get that yard, I lose for the week in terms of betting. Fortunately, I bet a ton on the Bills minus 17 and alternate spreads all the way up to minus 25. That helped out trying to recoup some money. But if Derek Carr it's my favorite prop of the week, Derek Carr over 23.5 completions. That's on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. It has been juiced up to minus 135. There's more on that and the detail when we run the simulations 10,000 times at runthesims.com, which you can go and put in your custom vig, put in your custom line, stat for any player you want. If you love props, runthesims.com has you covered. It did great yesterday in terms of the game simulations. So runthesims.com/Mayo to get in on that in terms of a discount. But the median projection for Derek Carr against the Chargers on Monday night is 29 completions. So 23.5 sounds like a massive over, even at minus 135. I found it in another spot at 24.5 at plus money because I'm greedy. That's what I took. So watch him complete 24 passes in this game. But that is the route that I am going to go. I'm not going to bet the spread. I'm not going to bet the money line. It's that single prop that I like the most from this game. Waller over catches as well. I think it's 6.5. The Chargers, especially with Derwin James, have been better against tight ends. Actually, I might end up going ahead. I haven't bet the other one yet. Although when we get to Prize Picks, I'll let you in on what I'm doing in that game. But I also like Henry Ruggs over his yardage. I think it's 46.5. Let me just pull that up to check on it for a second. Let's see, players. I don't know what is going on. That's stats, player parlay. Same game parlay could be a fun. Maybe we can fill out a same game parlay here. What can we do? Now, they only give you like certain things to do with this. I would go the over in terms of completions, though, because that's going to be stuck down pretty low. What is the Ruggs over here in receiving yards? Ruggs is 44.5. Chargers are kind of banged up on defense. You can never get Derwin James and Bosa on the field at the same time. And that's just one big play for Henry Ruggs. I like the Ruggs over 44.5. So Ruggs over 44.5, 24.5 over completions for Derek Carr. And where is the other one that I like? Why are they not showing this? Receiving yards, for whatever reason, they don't have Mike Williams on the board right now at DraftKings Sportsbook. So I guess that transitions us into the Prize Picks for the game. I gave these out in the newsletter. Again, you can sub to it free or just click the link and you can look at it for free and not sub in the description of this video. However, where are we at here? I'm riding a good one from last night's game. I had N'Keal Harry over 9.5 yards, and we got there at the very last second on his one catch. And I had the Antonio Brown over in that spot. So if you go to prizepicks.com, and this is especially good for people in states where sports betting isn't legalized because PrizePicks is available in a ton of spots, use code MMN when you sign up, and you'll get a deposit match of up to $100. So you deposit $100, you get $200. Easy stuff. And they'll pay you 3 times if you do the power play on everything. So yeah, I have Derek Carr over 24 completions. That's what it is on PrizePicks. And Mike Williams over 74.5 receiving yards in that game. $50 pays $150. And I've been doing really good in the island games. The Sunday has not been going well. Although if you do deposit right now, you can still participate in the 7-11 contest. You're not going to catch up because guys are way out ahead. However, if you play with very small stakes and you just kind of want to get into it and get a feel for all of this stuff, the 7-11 contest bonus is probably where you want to be at. So the contest is you just play an entry of either Thursday night and Sunday night props. No Monday night props in this one. So Thursday and Sunday props on prizepicks.com and using code MMN to sign up and make your deposit. You play a 5-pick entry, overs or unders for Thursday night or Sunday football. And you have to make the 5 picks, and you enter it for $7.11. That's important because that qualifies it for the 7-11 Mayo Media Contest. Now, if you do that and you get all 5 picks right, as anyone would by making a 5-pick prize picks, you get 10 times your money if you win. So you win $71. Now, if you get 4 picks correct, you still win. I think it's like $10 for the week. So you don't lose money if you go 4 or 5. But if you go 5 of 5 and have the $7.11 entry, not only do you get your $71 for getting all 5 picks right, you also get a bonus $50. So that really equals 17 times your money, which is the best multiplier on any site, anywhere, for low stakes players. So if you do want to try to build a bankroll and don't want to go broke after 1 week like a lot of people do when they try to start betting props, just allocate $7.11 every single week on PrizePicks. Make your 5 over under props. It's fun, and you get to compete with me and Cust and everyone else like that. And you can win 17 times your money, and it makes the ecosystem very sustainable. So even if you want to deposit $50, use code MMN. They will give you $100. Then you can play for the entire season. And that's pretty good ROI for something that gives you, you get in the game to root for it. You have your DraftKings lineups every single week, whether you're playing $20, whether you're playing $50, whether you're playing $10 or $5. And this just gives you something to root for that's not that at the same time. You have 2 separate things to root for along with your fantasy team. So I highly recommend doing it. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great way to build your bankroll. Like I said, in the Monday Night Football game, I like over Mike Williams, 74.5 receiving yards, over Derek Carr, 24 completions. And if you want to play a 3-way, the Henry Ruggs over 46.5 receiving yards, I also quite enjoy for that game. We'll see if Josh Jacobs plays. If he doesn't, the Kenyon Drake. Let's see what Drake's over-under right now is for receptions, because that one's been a good hitter for us. They haven't put any of the running backs on the board right now. Smart on their side, to be perfectly honest with you. They're only offering Chargers running backs as I talk right now. Once Josh Jacobs is either ruled in or out, take a look at the Kenyon Drake receiving prop. It's been lingering around 1.5 and 2.5 the past few weeks. I've been betting it, and it's been juiced up over the 2.5. That's a really good spot to be in, especially if you think that they're going to be dogs in this game, which they are. But if you think that they're going to be within a score or trailing against the Chargers, you're going to see a lot more Kenyon Drake on the field than you're going to see Peyton Barber, and that will probably result in 4 or 5 targets, and that's usually good for 3 or 4 receptions, and that's over 2.5, so that could be a nice one for you tonight. But it's not as good as the Derek Carr with the medium projection at 29, so you can check that out at runthesims.com/Mayo to get yourself the discount on all the premium tools up there right now. If you do want to run a bunch of DraftKings Showdown contests, the DIY simulator helps you punch in your own projections, and it simulates a game 10,000 times and gives you optimal lineups, which you can choose from yourself based on your own projections. Highly recommend doing that. Thank you all for watching. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the audio podcast, sub to Mayo Media Network. Smash a like for the episode. We got through a ton here today. I actually quite enjoyed that. So for next week, the Pat Mayo Experience at gmail.com. We'll tack on some life advice to the end or any sort of industry questions that you have. I don't want to do start sick questions. Lauren and Laquan and Scott have your start sick questions answered. If you just tweet at them, they'll answer it on Tuesday's show and Thursday's show on Mayo Media Network for fantasy football picks and bets. Plus, Lauren does the live chat on Sunday morning. So there's plenty of people to answer your questions. That's not what this is about. This is to fill time on the show and hopefully have some fun along with it. I hope you won in week 4. And if you haven't won yet, best of luck on Monday night. And hopefully we can hit these props and win some Mondays. All right, I'm Pat Mayo. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!